Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody, from Jim's Holiest Coleus. I just want to thank all of my subscribers and all of the wonderful comments through the years. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start off here. I'm gonna do a short video on the Jiffy pod system that I use, in case the other videos. But I'm just basically going to run down what I do, why I think it's the best way to grow coleus. Whether you're just going to grow half a dozen for yourself or 700-800 like I do. Anyway, here's a couple of coleus plants that I brought in that I'm overwintering. And this one, again, every coleus plant, I found that you overwinter. Some do much better than others. These smaller ones, this is a very healthy coleus to begin with. And it's doing real well because, again, I have a bay window, and it gets lots of light. It gets a nice shot of sun, and just gets lots of light. And here's the Defiance Coleus. Now, another thing that happens, which not really happening too much to this plant, it'll look like it's thinning out a little, or it's a little droopy. The colors aren't as vibrant. It doesn't grow as fast. You don't seem like you have to trim it as often. That's all that's all from overwintering. It's really a part of the dormancy. If you're in a winter zone like I'm in New Jersey. But this Defiance Coleus, this is a perfect example. If you look at some of my previous videos with this exact plant, it was the reds were much more vibrant. The leaves were a little more up and attentive. It just seemed more, alive and bright and so forth. So it's still alive. It's still a real healthy plant, and it doesn't show on the video, but in person, part of the wintering is that the leaves look a little like translucent. They almost like you could see through them. It's just that the colors the reds aren't as deep and dark, and that's normal. I just keep watering it when it needs it. Every plant is different. You don't want to overwater them. Every plant is different, but you'll get to know by the feel of the soil and the pot, the weight of the pot, how much water you need to give it. So, okay, on with the program, as we say. This is the Jiffy system that I use. Now, you could buy these trays. This is a large tray. But you could buy these trays at Lowe's, Home Depot, any of those stores, or you can get them on Amazon. I buy them bulk. You can see I have bulk. I buy these Ziploc bulks by the hundreds, and they're basically the discs. And these are really great. Now, but what these are dehydrated peat pods. They're dehydrated and flattened out, or I don't know how they make them, but it's a netting. And generally, when you buy the tray at the store, it'll have the instructions. I suggest, if you never used them before, to get a tray, because they tell you exactly how much water to put into them. I believe it was a tray this size was 10 cups of warm water. So what I'll do is I'll get the 10 cups and I'll slowly, evenly pour it over. And I won't pour the whole 10 cups in. I'm going to pour it slowly, and I'll wait. I'll keep like maybe a quarter. So I'll put in maybe 9.5 cups or 9 cups. And I'll let it sit a minute. It takes a little while for them. And what you're going to see is these are going to expand. They're going to get fluffed out. All the water's going to absorb, and they're going to fluff up. And then I'll see if I need to add the rest of the cup of water. And I'll know that generally, as long as they're all expanded, and you don't want them to be soaking wet. You don't want them dripping. There shouldn't be a whole bunch of water in the bottom of the tray. If there is, just drain it, because there's a space down below here. So you don't want to have a lot of excess water. These should soak up everything, but you don't want them sopping wet. They should be moist, expanded, and ready to go. Now, once they're expanded, this very top here, that's the netting. That's the actual center. And I've seen some people do this. It's not a mistake as much, but some people actually just put the seeds in that little dot there, and that's not really right. What you want to do is tear open that top. Again, this whole thing will be a netted pod. You want to rip open the netting a little around the edge as my Yorkie continues to be spoiled and want to be on the show. Here he is. This is Newton. And there's my other buddy, Beauregard. Bobo. Anyway, you want to rip those, just slightly tear them around in a circular to expose the peat and fluff up the peat a little. Once you do that, depending on how many pods you do, the Coleus seeds do not want to be buried. You do not bury them below the surface of the pod. You do is you just drop no more than 4 or 5. I recommend 4 Coleus seeds per pod. You just drop them on top of the soil and you gently pat them down. Try to keep track of, depending on how many you do, like I do, I have a system where I make sure I remember, did I do this pod already? So I don't overseed too badly. But yeah, because I grow 800 or 500 in general, 500 Coleus plants or so. I'll plant 4 Coleus seeds per pod. So I'll have maybe 2 trays. But these are the best. This is the best system. Here's all my Coleus seeds. That's some older ones. I have about a dozen bags filled with different species Coleus. There's some newer ones. And occasionally I'll pick up a pack at the store if I see something that's a little different. It's always nice to throw in. Those are like mixed assortments. And sometimes I'll get lucky. And I have gotten lucky. And there'll be maybe a Coleus that I don't have in my collection of seeds. But this is the best system because once these expand, that your Coleus, then you're going to put the lid. Once your Coleus expand, you're going to put this lid on. You want to put this lid completely on. And you put it, I have a greenhouse, an indoor greenhouse. You don't want it baking in the sun. You want it in I suggest a grow light if you have one, although it's not necessary, but it really helps out. But make sure it's in a place that has some light, 70-degree temperatures. You don't want anything really low and anything higher than that. 70 degrees is like the optimal temperature for Coleus seeds to grow, indoor temperatures. I have a nice little section there that's in the corner. There's my baseboard heat, my hot water baseboard heat, which is nice. It's not dry, and I have a grow light again up there, and I put my trays on that rack. And in 10 days, 7 to 10 days, you'll start to see these germinate. You'll see the little Coleus germination start to pop up, and they generally all pop up pretty much the same time. You're going to get a few that don't, and if that's the case, you can throw another couple of seeds on. But anyway, once they germinate, you don't want to take this top off. You want to just pop it off like that. Get some air in there, because what will happen sometimes, you'll start to see some mold, because you don't want, especially if you overwater these, you'll start seeing like a little fuzzy mold on top of the pods. If you see that, just brush it away. If you have like a little brush, just brush that away. It's not going to really harm the germinations. But I've had it, and I just take a little, like a modeling brush, and I just brush the fuzzy mold off. And if you see a couple of pods that maybe look like they're dry, especially, and that's where you have to monitor your Coleus as your germinations. They're going to dry out a little bit. You'll see or feel them once they're expanded and they're growing through the growing season, because these are going to be in, your Coleus will be in these pods for about 10 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks. I mean, they'll stay in these pods, and then you decide what you want to do. I have I have videos on separating your coleus from your pods. But if you're just going to grow a specific number just to replant into pots, then you can actually take these whole pods, and once they're grown, once your plants are grown, you can just put them right into an indoor, whatever you're growing, indoor pot, or an, an external pot, a hanging basket, whatever. You can just get some potting soil, make a hole, drop the pod right in direct. You don't have to take the, you don't have to take the netting off, but you can, and drop it right into the potting soil and cover, and just cover around it, and you have a plant. So that's why I like these, because they're very convenient, and their moisture retention is perfect for the coleus. It just makes it so much easier to grow great coleus plants. Some Jim's Holiest of Coleus. I credit my plants a lot to this system because of this system. It's very easy to organize. It makes it so much easier for me to grow hundreds of coleus and organize them, so I know what I have. So I hope this helps out. Follow along. Again, you can buy these online, Amazon. You can get them 36. I think I've seen some as small as 10, 26, and 50. And there's a little more than 50 in here. I take other trays that I have, and I just expand them, and I just put them in there, and because I grow so many coleus, so I try to have the least amount of trays. And then again, I have videos on what to do with these as they start germinating, and once we get into the point where we're going to start separating the Coleus germinations when they're larger in a few months, and so forth, when I start planning on what I'm going to do with my plants. But again, make sure, remember, get your trays, follow the directions on warm water. Don't throw all the water in one shot. Do it slow and even. Wait a few minutes, make sure they're all expanded, and then if you see a couple that need more water, add them. But just don't soak them. You don't want a lot of water. If you soak these too much, in the event you do, I've done it, just, let them dry out a little bit more. Although I'm supposed to put the top on, if I know I over-soaked a few of them, I'll keep the top off for a while and let them dry a little bit, because you're going to start to get a lot of that fuzzy mold. So just take it slow. Pour your water in slowly, gently, and you'll see them expand. And it's pretty neat. It's a really ingenious way to start any plants. And it's not just coleus. You can grow anything. Anything with a seed, you can grow. They make these in different depths, sizes. I grow red peppers, bell peppers. I use these. So any plant, it's not just coleus. You can plant. You could basically start any plant with these. It's a great system. So, again, seeds, I keep them in a dark bag. I keep them in a cool, dry closet until I need them. And I have them in Ziploc bags, all generally with a date. Ziploc bags, dated, so I know what they are and how old they are. So. All right, so I hope this helps out. Follow along. You can do it. So thanks for following. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody. And stay tuned for some more videos as these start to progress. I'll shoot out a video when I make it. And just real quick, just so you know, here's my black stockings. And it's lost 90% of its foliage, but it's still alive. I trimmed it down really well, and there's the Defiance. They look horrible, they really do. But I just make sure I monitor the water. There's still plenty of live growth on it. I just trim it where it needs. And now I will lose a few plants stems. I'll trim that down. There may be a few that just die. You trim them down, and I just nurse these plants through till spring, and then by next year it'll come back. Again, this is 3 years old, and every year I winter it, it looks like this overwintering. It looks like, oh my God, this is it. It's gone. and come spring and summer, it's back and better than ever. So, okay. So again, Merry Christmas, everybody, and a Happy New Year, and thanks for subscribing. If you have friends that are into Coleus or plants, please pass my channel along. And look forward to my next video. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.